Hey, hello. Hope things are going okay and welcome back. I'm hoping that you're enjoying all these book reviews and they're giving you more of an insight to the development and understanding of the human and the human psyche. And just kind of a broad feeling about different topics. I know that I have some books that are very relatable to others. They have a lot of connections, and most of the books do have a lot of connections to a certain extent. You just some authors say the same thing. Sometimes they counteract the other authors, and that's why you have to read an assortment of books. And you're probably thinking, who's right then? It really is, it's in the context, but it's also about the certain sequences and the certain common themes that you think about, and hoping that you're getting that. So, I have an interesting book today. It is called Civilization and Its Discontents by Sigmund Freud. And it's not a very lengthy book, it's only about 144 pages. This book has been around since 1930. It was first published in 1930. So the work from Sigmund Freud has been around for a long time, and I will share that with you. So if you don't know anything about Sigmund Freud, if you ever taken a psychology class, and he studies psychoanalytic analysis, we're going to go over that in a little bit. And really, what that is, that psychoanalysts. Is really just a feeling about our unconscious mind. Unconscious means that the deep thoughts into your brain. Conscious means that you're awake. Subconscious means that you have stuff deep and rooted inside you. So if you don't know anything about Sigmund Freud, he lived around the 1930s. I think he was alive. He was born about 1856, and he died around 1939. So he lived a pretty interesting life. He was a big smoker and stuff like that too. I think that's kind of what got in the way. But he was the father of psychoanalysis. It's a hard word if you don't say it very often. Psychoanalysis. And he was a medical doctor, a very influential thinker in his early 20s. I studied a lot of him when you're in a psychology field. So I took psychology and I majored in it and also majored in math. So I know some of this stuff. And his working is actually still true to us today, as you're going to find out here in a little bit. And it's really you study the mind and what the mind thinks and how we subconsciously think about other people and ourselves, without doing a whole lot of analysis of outward spoken. And so he was very thought about dreams. He studied dreams. Dreams have some kind of answer sometimes. Sometimes our unconscious comes out in our dreams. And you might want to be prepared about this one, but if you ever heard about this certain, I think this was a Shakespeare play, but it's called the Oedipus Rex syndrome. And what Oedipus Rex is that it's coined from Sigmund Freud, is that you tend to have feelings towards your mother. And Oedipus Rex syndrome says that you would pretty much kill your father and marry your mother. Well, I know you're probably thinking, oh my God, that's really sickening. And I know that's not going to happen, but think about the thought process into it. Think about it. Do you go out or find people that are very similar to your mother? Or do you find people that are similar to your father? Do they look? Do they appear? Do they act? Are they in your interest like your parents? And that's kind of what Sigmund Freud was developing. He says that, we have these deep thoughts that we tend to marry people like our parents. And just think about that. In a way, I think I married my mother, my wife, not married my mother. I married somebody like my mother in a way. My wife has certain characteristics that appear to be in my mother. And I have certain characteristics like her father. And she, I know it's kind of a gross topic, but if you just think about it, though, I mean, it's interesting. But off topic, well, not off topic, but you know what I mean. So back to the book here. And so the book really has a lot of good stuff about it, and it's about the civilizations. And let's go ahead and do this. So, by the way, Sigmund Freud, he was born in Austria, and if you don't know what Austria is, he's a Jew. He was a Jewish descent, by the way. So, and he studied medicine and stuff like that. And this book really dives into the fundamentals tension between the individual and society. So, society really plays into a lot of what we develop through our lives. So, the common themes in this book is one is conflict between the individual and society, human instincts, the role in religion, guilt and consciousness, and psychoanalysts in this civilization. So those are the 5 themes that we're going to kind of talk about today, or maybe deep conflict. We're not going to talk about every single one of them because some of them are kind of out there. So the first one is really about our individual quest for freedom and society's demand on conformity. Conformity means that you kind of want to obey the same kind of rules and laws, and I'm saying that's a good thing because you want to have the same kind of laws as when you're driving, as when you are meeting somebody, as when you're treating somebody. Those are conformity laws that we all, as a society, hope to abide by, right? We drive on the right side of the road. We make sure we use our blinkers when we drive. You watch out for pedestrians crossing the street. And so you're saying thank you. Those are very calm formality expressions that we do, we follow. And society has that onto us, right? But it's that individual freedom. What I'm talking about is that, it's not fair to everybody to marry at the same moment, or go on a relationship, or everybody have a set schedule through life. So, for example, when you are born, you're raised by your parents, you go through the teenage years, you reach adult, you're 18, you have the register to vote, and then you get a job, and then you get a career going, and then you start a family, and then you retire, and then you die. I mean, that's kind of the step process, right? Well, society is conditioning or conforming us that way. But it is okay to go out that norm a little bit, as people don't always have the same kind of setups. Maybe they don't want to start a family so soon, so they're waiting a lot longer now. Maybe they're not getting married right away. They're married later than life. So each stage in life, that's what we as society is trying to conform us to. And that's kind of what he was trying to say, is that you have the freedom to not do that. And subconsciously, you have the freedom of not thinking that way too. But we have what we call human instincts. And we move away from pain and discomfort and move away and move towards something that's very pleasurable and joyous. So in society, we don't like pain. People don't want to think of pain as a good thing. Pain is actually a good thing. Like pain and gain when you're weightlifting. When you're weightlifting, your muscles are getting strained, but you know darn well that your muscles are developing better and tighter strength, so you're getting that mobility. Pain is, if you have a sore tooth, pain is a good thing because maybe your tooth is sore and it's going to your brain, says, you have a problem here, or your foot is hurting because you stepped on a rock, or you bumped your elbow on something, you have pain there. That pain in your brain's telling you there's something going on. Please handle that. Maybe the pain from a relationship ended and you're learning from that. Maybe in that relationship you got screwed somehow and you're learning from that. And that's good to have as an experience. And it's also very hurtful, though. I mean, there's only so much pain people can really handle. It's your threshold. And pain is a good thing, but we tend not to, we tend to, as a society, look to the path of least resistance. That means we want to not go through the hardships. We want to veer off and go towards the easy way. We don't want to go through the hard stuff. We want to go through the easy way. Now, this can be applied to job looking, relationship looking, friendships, doing a basic living life. You know, a lot of people don't want to do things the hard way. They want to do things the easy way because it's a lot more simpler on themselves. But do you really learn anything though when you always take the easy way? And you're probably going to say yes, of course. You have to do some hard work. You got to put some pain because that helps you develop more experience on that. So you don't do it over again. So pain is a good thing. And we have emotional pain that can be devastating as well. But we also have society pain. You know, society pain is that, many people are getting divorced at 50% in their lifetime, or 50% of divorces in divorce or something like that. You can look that up. And that pain is, oh, you had a divorce, and so, it must be devastated for you. Or maybe that, you have to pay taxes. I guess that could be painful, I guess, because you're spending money. Or maybe we have a bullying these days. Bullying is painful. And there's only so much bullying that a person can stand throughout their life that devastates the rest of their life. But bullying, I'm not saying this to be mean here, but some sort of bullying is good too. And I know that you're probably thinking, oh my God, you're saying bullying is a good thing? You have to kind of have sometimes tough skin. And tough skin makes you more resilient. I'm not saying that too much of it, but some bullying is good. You have to build a backbone because sometimes you have to say, you know what? Yes, you're making fun of me, but I don't care. You stand up for yourself in a way. And so I'm not trying to say bullying's a good thing, but there's some of it that you have to get through your thick skin, because what happens if you get fired, or maybe you didn't get a promotion, you didn't get that job, or you didn't get that date? You're going to break down. And I think that will help you throughout your life to say, you know what, put that barrier up and says, you know what, okay, whatever, I'm going to move on. So if that offended you, I'm sorry. And so you have like happiness, and then you have what we call pain. These do coexist. In the book, he was saying that these coexist with each other. And surely a feeling can only be a source of energy when it's itself expressed through the strong need. So a thought is just energy. And these feelings are just energy. And really, we as a civilization, as individuals too, we seek the pleasure principle. We want to be pleasured. We want to be loved. We want to be touched. We want to be hugged. That's what I mean by that. If we don't have that in life, we begin to kind of separate ourselves from society. So Freud said that everybody loves to be touched. What I mean by touch, it means be hugged, touched on the hand, touched on the shoulders, because we feel more welcome, and you actually live a lot longer, I do believe, when you're with people. So I want to read you something in the book. So this is kind of interesting. Here we go. Life as we find it is hard for us. It entitles too much pain, too much disappointment, impossible task. We cannot do without palliative remedies. We cannot dispense without auxiliary constructions. And there are perhaps three of these. One is powerful, diverse in interest, which leads us to careful little about misery, substitute gratification, which loosens it, and intoxicating substances, which makes us insensible to it. So I think what he's trying to say in the book here is that we choose things to not handle society well, or individuals, and he's talking about we put up these barriers, or we don't want to handle life, and we get to a point that we get depressed or too much pain, and then we start intoxicating, we start drinking to not deal with that pain. And I think that's kind of like a scapegoat. You're not. That's what I think. I think you're not living up to your problems, and so you're finding other altered state of consciousness. Consciousness means you are aware, but an alternate consciousness. You're doing something to your brain to ignore that problem. And that's what's going on. You want to ignore that pain somehow, so you're doing something to your body to ignore it. And that's why I just don't understand smoking, drinking, and all that stuff. Is that you're just ignoring the problems. You're swiping them under. But I got a divorce, and I have a breakup from my relationship, and now I'm put myself into. I just can't handle the pain, so I have to do things. That's fine, but sometimes you have to seek help too and talk to people, and maybe go to the gym and exercise or run rather than drink and stuff like that, and make your liver and all, like, in your body and your lungs decreasing. It's just interesting as that he said this in his book. So suffering comes in three quarters. That he says that suffering from our own body, suffering from the world, and suffering from other relationships. And I think that's really important, is that we suffer in those three categories. So love in civilization, the next one is that, our role in love in the civilization, we all want to be loved, right? We all want to find love. And we have this sexual freedom by our society norms. It's kind of like your burden of responsibility as being an adult, as a human being, is that people become neurotic because they cannot tolerate the degree of privatization that society imposes on them in a virtue of cultural ideas. So here's what I mean, is that you have a marriage. People say, oh, get married and then live prosperous throughout your life. And sometimes you have arranged marriage. In certain countries, they have arranged marriages. You got to marry this person, done. Or maybe you have, it's a rite of passage. And maybe it's God's plan. You get married and live on. And so it's the right thing to do. So you have these kind of like these pre-planned societal and cultural sets. Here you go. And that's fine. And, but you have to have fun. You got to make sure that you show the other person that you're doing that the love and affection that comes with it. And sometimes when it's forced upon you, you're going to back away. You're not going to show that affection. I think that's kind of what Sigmund Freud was trying to discuss in this book, or in his information, is that we need to not be always tied down. We need to kind of have that freedom of expression. And nothing. It really is the benefit of the person to give them their pleasure and their love too. It's not a one size fits all. So, and sometimes you're just not ready. And that's what my thing is that, sometimes you're not ready to follow in those relationships. You got to wait some time because you develop more experiences throughout life, and you don't want that responsibility yet, that burden. He calls it a burden of responsibility. And I don't know. I think it's a person's choice. And, happiness is very subjective. Remember, happiness is very hard to define. People think that money is happiness, relationships are happiness, going to the gym is happiness, just being gaming is a happiness. Happiness is hard to define. But he says that it's very subjective. It does change after a long period of time. And sometimes it's short and sometimes it's very long. And it's that impulse control that we have, that subconsciousness that we have, this impulse. And if you can control your impulses, you'd be better off. And so he says this as we do this, we get a useless of a relationship with other people. So, for example, if you don't have control of your emotions or control your impulses, life is going to be hard, and you can put yourself in a position where you can be looked out of, like a narcissistic. Narcissistic is that you're looking out for number one, and you're only in for your self-interest, and you don't really care about other people. and you hold yourself up to a higher regard than everybody. And that leads to sometimes bullying when you're very narcissistic. Or you think that society is useless, so I just don't care, and I'm just going to put people in and I was like, I don't care about that, and you find them useless. And sometimes that's just, you don't value life anymore, and you just try different things. You live on the edge, and so that's your impulse, that's your subconscious thoughts giving you away. And so human life is in communities only becomes when a number of people unite together for strong. So to live in a community that means you're becoming one with a whole bunch of people in a strong, cohesive way. And that's good. You're evolving when you decide that, I don't really want that anymore. I'm going to become to society's needs again. And sometimes you can have a guilt. Guilt is always a thing. When a marriage ends, you should have guilt, right? It didn't work out. Okay, the guilt is maybe I was the one that I wanted to grow apart. I didn't want to be in that relationship anymore, and that that partner love faded or something like that. But then the guilt is that you maybe have kids, and then the kids are tough on that because your parents are divorced. The family tree that you were building in that family, maybe now you broke that, and that you feel the pain, and the other family feels that pain. It's like, well, that family connection is not there anymore. It's broken, and it's almost like a traitor. You're thinking about a traitor, and the family members are against you now, and that guilt of being betrayed is really hard. And so it really goes into that, that balancing act between a good and loving relationship versus a bad one. And it really is a balance between your id, your ego, and your superego. Remember, your subconscious, your id is like your impulse. You can, I'm gonna do that regardless of what people say. The ego is kind of like the balancing of your superego. Your superego is like your morals. That if you do that crime, you're gonna go to jail. But I want that now. I want that thing now. I'm going to commit that robbery. But your superego is the morals. Well, if you do that, you're going to be in jail. You're going to get caught. The ego is kind of like your balancing beam of holding both into that. And if your ego is very solid, very balanced, then those feelings will begin to deteriorate. And so you feel this remorse. And sometimes people don't feel remorse. They don't feel that, they don't really think that, oh, I don't have to be guilty. I don't care. I just want to do my own thing. Okay. And so it's this altruistic view. Altruistic view means that your selflessness of the well-being of others. And I think that's kind of wrong myself. But, the book really is an interesting book about about civilization. It is a tough read. When I say it's a tough read, there's a lot of language in there that it gets kind of wordy, and you might not understand this, and it takes a long time. But it's just you have to have some history and experience on some things, and maybe take a psychology class to understand this is probably what I would do. But interesting read. Anyway, if you ever find a psychology book, they have things about Sigmund Freud. He's all over the place. And some of his methods are still relevant to today. It's really interesting. So, hope that you found that really interesting. And think about what's going on. And if it kind of kind of worried you or grossed you out a little bit, I'm sorry. But, I'm just reading the facts here. I'm not trying to make things up. But if you think about it, I mean, some of his work is like, you know what? I see it. It's crazy. But hopefully that was okay, and I will see you in the next video.